So welcome to the Food, Water, Energy Nexus Challenge. This challenge is embedded in the Circular Region Megaproject and within circular economy in practice, and that means it's a little bit more down to earth than some of the other challenges that we will work with. It means that all projects need to deliver on actually implementation of solutions, not necessarily tomorrow, but not in 10 years time from now. We need to start moving now. So that's the main aspect of what we're doing within this. It's a nexus project, so it deals with various types of resources and various types of waste coming out from that, and how to turn that waste as it is now into resources locally. Or at least discuss how we can put it into the system at a more centralized solutions. So some of the project descriptions that we have here, and you can take one of the flyers here, there's a little bit on both sides, explaining a little bit more, is discussing, for example, planning of redevelopment areas, brownfield developments. We take point of departure in something going on already here in Aalborg, which is the old distillery factory Spritten, Cloud City. It could also be on the other side of the fjord with Stisborg, where there's a bunch of developments going on right now. They talk about eco-villages and so on and so forth, on a scale where it's on planning. And a lot of it is both on constructing circular, as one thing, and what we'll try and do is, okay, so if you make the frame to support circularity, how do we then enhance the circularity of actually living? As Asbjørn was talking about, it's also up to consumers to participate. So what we're trying within this mega project is, of course, to have the governance of circularity, that's one aspect, and then combine that with action on the ground. So how do we implement sorting, for example, of food waste? That could be one thing. It could be combined with the Eat Sustainably as well, right? So how not to produce the food waste, but when food waste is produced, how to make use of that. Can we put it into compost locally? With that compost, can we then grow vegetables, fruit, herbs, or similar stuff? And how can we do that at a scale? So it's a little bit more than just me, myself, on my balcony, but actually produce for the community. So it's circular community that we're looking for implementation. So one of the projects that we are looking at, which combines these things, is as you can see in this, a containerized version of urban agriculture or urban gardening. So it goes beyond, of course, your own little small garden with a bit of carrots and so on, but actually industrializes it a little bit, again, in order to serve the community and not just as a single household or similar. And the example we're using here is because it's actually integrating a lot of different disciplines that are necessary in order to make this happen. First of all, you need to plan for it. Where is it supposed to be? What's the size? How large is the community? Is it actually allowed? What's the legislation? What's the governance? And second is then, okay, so how do we actually make this? What is the automation of this? What can we grow in this? How do we make sure that we might actually utilize grey water, so from showers and similar? Can that go in without to the detriment of the plants and what we actually are supposed to eat afterwards? So automation, the robotics aspects of it, ventilation, the energy that goes in. Some will talk about perhaps can we actually suck CO2 out of the air and put in so the growth rate of the plants are higher, all these kinds of things. So a lot of planning, a lot of engineering, a lot of design in also the community. What can we actually do? How can we engage people in this in order to make the living circular? So that's one example of a very concrete example of how we can go about with this. Another example that we have also on the poster is a little bit more perhaps diffuse, but again engaging with local communities. What you can see is actually a gameplay where different stakeholders can come together for the area and design how they want it to look. and enhance the circularity in that way of the area. That's one thing. And the next thing is of course to figure out, so what's the waste and resources here? What are the resources that we need in order to live? What waste is then produced, and how do we turn that into resources? And the idea with the game itself is right now is very analog. These are wooden blocks and so on, which is nice, touchy-feely and all that. But we'd actually like to gamify this in a digital version as well. So we can digitize this and make the engagement and the gameplay a little bit more smooth. So again, that would call for, of course, the IT competences, but also understanding of how people actually engage and what engagement processes are there, and how can we then utilize this with the different stakeholders, how can this be implemented, and so on. So these are two concrete examples of projects that we can deal with. The project has to take point of departure as something concrete, yes, because otherwise it's not practice, and we want to change something on the ground right now. And there are lots of development projects around. It doesn't have to be Spritten or Stispor. It can also be smaller communities within the region, of course, because that's the name of the game when we work with this now. So really finding a place where something is going on. Perhaps it's early stage. Perhaps it's at a point of, oh, we are actually almost there, and then you can come in as students with new ideas, where it's not fully developed, but it's still going in that direction.
Can I ask about something? Because this is supposed to be between different subjects, and this seems very interesting. But I'm studying psychology.
Okay.
So it's like hard to see how I can be, like what I can do with this project, how psychology can be related to it.
Okay, so a discipline like psychology and its contribution to a project like this.
Yeah.
I'm not a psychologist, so it's basically layman's discussion that we're talking here. From my side, it could be a little bit about a little bit like Esbjørn also talked about the philosophy, psychology. So how to change,
yeah,
but also how to engage. What's behind that? How to motivate, and how to be kept in there. From a lot of studies, we know that there is a honeymoon period that goes with new tech and so on and so forth, where you are really engaged, but then it sort of wanes off, and the love for the new tech or the love for whatever you engage in dissipates, basically. So how do you keep that momentum, so it's beyond 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, because sometimes it doesn't take much more than one person or one community or a residence, right, to break the system. If you sort in wrong ways, right, the whole thing is going to waste and is not circular anymore. So I think that would be what's in the minds of those engaging, for example, in the game. Why would you do that? But also those engaging in something like that, the urban agriculture. Why are you engaged? And what can we do? Then the learning from this could go out. Then how can we enhance this to other? So what can we actually learn from an engagement process like this?